Welcome back to Dungeon Master's Corner. Today, we revisit an old favorite. If I only had a nickel for every time we aggroed a whole dungeon. Welcome back to another episode of Dungeon Master's Corner. My name is Brian, and with me today we have...
Nicole.
So we are back, and we are kind of returning to an old story with a new story. I've been running a Dragonlance campaign because, as a child... I was in middle school, but they're children. Dragonlance is one of my favorite book series, and I've actually recently gotten you into reading them as well.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying them. And being able to, read the books and play in the world, it just adds a new level of understanding.
What's really funny is I was doing a reread, and I finally got her to start reading it, and she's overtaken me, and I think she's ordered more books.
Yeah, I got the Rastalin trilogy about the test.
Gotcha.
For reasons.
Keep in mind, Margaret Wise and I think Tracy Hickman is, they're both writing a new trilogy, actually. I have the first book, I just haven't finished reading it yet. But you definitely want to finish The War of the Lands first.
Yeah, but we digress.
Yeah, we get back to this. So, I've been running through the Dragonlance campaign, and it was the last book that I bought from WotC, and I think it's going to be the last book that I buy from WotC before the OGL stuff happened, and yeah, I'm glad I bought it before that, when I still liked them. But to be fair, the book isn't that great. It has a good general campaign, and I have good players, so that makes it better.
And we also have an excellent DM who adds and alters things to really fuck with us.
And who's that?
It's you.
Oh, me? Well, I do add things to fuck with you. Really good DM? I don't know. But anyway. So, they went to this one area of the map where they were supposed to free or liberate this fort. And
Fort or fortress?
It was a fort. Damn Kender. So one of our players, the paladin, named Boon Brightblade. Named so before he knew who Sturm was, by the way. He did not know Sturm Brightblade existed. So the hilarity of that is not lost on me. But they got to this fort where he was arguing it's a fortress. And we actually looked up the difference between fort and fortress, and no, it's a fort. A fortress has a town within it. A fort does not. Here's your little English lesson from today from your friendly, nerdy English teacher. But they decided as a party that reconnaissance was the best way to do this. The soldiers were on alert. They were looking out, preparing for an attack. So we have to go in, find some stuff, maybe find a way to open the doors.
Yeah, because the whole goal was to help Raven go open the gate so she can get her forces in, and then we take back the fort.
Yes, Raven is the mayor of the town that you save at the beginning of the adventure.
Didn't feel a lot like saving, but okay.
Well, you helped push
people.
them off. You saved some lives. That's what matters. The town, But, so you get to the Wheel Watch outpost. You send the druid in. The druid transforms into a Skeveril. The Skeveril climbs the wall and sees a lever, or a winch, that will open the doors.
We should also say that our druid is another Kender, played by our friend Gina, which you also know as Henry.
And boy, howdy did she Henry this.
Oh boy. But the Kender's name is Turtle. Turtle the druid.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
What happened next wasn't, but... So she sees the winch, and I am a little squirrel. I cannot wind a winch. I think even in her Kender form, she probably couldn't have wound that winch.
I don't know if she could have reached it with her height.
There's also that issue. But, she hears a little rustling in the stables.
And she smelled something weird. It was the smell that caught her, really.
It really was. I'm not sure if I said it was blood, but
Oh, it was blood.
I don't know if she I remember if she knew it was blood at that point. But she went to investigate. And she went inside, and blood everywhere, bones everywhere, and a dragonelle, which is a dragon-like creature that's the size of a large horse or elephant or something rideable that isn't, a full-fledged dragon.
Like a wyvern, kind of, size-wise.
Better than a wyvern, but yeah, about that size. Is chewing on some bones.
Of the horse that it killed, I believe.
The horses that it killed, yes, multiple horses. Gotta keep that dragon fat and happy. Dragonelle, whatever. But I told the squirrel to make a stealth check. Now you'd think squirrel would be good at making a stealth check. Dragon got a nat 20. And I assume that this dragon's a lot like a cat. Maybe that squirrel's not enough for a meal, but it's enough for some entertainment. So the squirrel runs, the dragon chases and hits the squirrel, and out pops the kender. And then Boone...
Well, she was on the other side of the locked door that we were not with her either.
That's true. But Boone heard screaming and noise and decided this is a job for him. He climbs the wall, he jumps off the wall, and, pile drives the sword he has, or his hoopak. For those of you that aren't familiar with Dragonlance, a hoopak is a walking stick with a sling on top and a point at the bottom. They're actually pretty cool weapons that are
pretty
delegated.
Good utility, yeah.
Yeah, but they're delegated to being like a kender weapon, so it kind of... You're not really going to find many people walking around with a hoopak that aren't kender. But he drives it into... No, I think he actually had the sword at that point. He drives the sword into the dragon. He gets to be all heroic. And then the rest of you start to clamber in, climbing the wall. I think your character, which you can introduce her.
For this one, I am playing a Sylvanesque elf, lunar sorceress. I call her Evie. There are secrets that I cannot reveal yet.
Yeah, not until they are exposed in game. Yes, that's understandable.
Exactly. But we will call her Evie for our purposes. I misty stepped through the doors, and the goal was to get the gate open. I'm gonna get the gate open. There was a lock on the winch. Because that's rude.
It says it in the module. It wasn't even me.
Oh, I know, but still, that's rude. So break the lock, open the door to let the others in, and it's... Oh, it was chaos.
It was, and... everything between Boone screaming, the guards calling the alarm... It was just bedlam. You called the entire dungeon to you. Which is why I said we're kind of revisiting an old story.
It's a little bit like Cragmaw Castle.
A little bit like it, which... How we did that twice.
I don't know.
To be fair, we didn't do that twice. How many times did we do that?
Call the entire camp to us?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. There was Cragmaw Castle, there was the Wheel Watch, and there was Nimressa from my Tal'Dorei group.
So third time.
A third time.
This has happened 3 times now, so what happened at Nimressa?
So, the Heist of Nimressa, I believe we've talked about it before, a little bit, because we've run through it in a couple different iterations. But this was with my original Tal'Dorei group, where we had Asper the Sorceress, we had Karis the Tiefling Bard, we had, at the time, it was Absinthe, and it was Braylon.
Absinthe, I could use some of that.
She was honestly the only one to really survive. So, without spoiling too much in the module, because it is fantastic, the group had gotten off of main Tal'Dorei, got to Marquette as the Conclave was attacking, because I didn't think the game was going to go that long, where I had placed it in the timeline. Like, they're going to get wrapped up in that, and that's not good for, like, level 5s. Bad idea.
What, you mean level 5 shouldn't be fighting ancient dragons?
No, I mean... And they can totally handle it for 5 seconds. So, I got them to Marquette, where in port they meet Thea and the Merrymen. And they're like, hey, help us rob from the rich, give back to the poor. The church was bad and they're holding the stuff here. So, the party's like, yeah, sure. They break into the place. And they go in through, like, a sewer pipe, and they see the dungeon. They meet a captain. It's this little halfling druid. She's a sweetheart, and it's wonderful. They don't let her out of the cage. Instead, they start sneaking around, stealthing around, looking around, trying to figure out where they need to go. The sorceress, Asper, gets the brilliant idea when they find where, like, the captain's office is, and he's at his desk, hasn't noticed them yet, that she is going to make herself look like the captive got out, and rush in, kind of trying to, like, draw him out. Where's the problem with that, by the way?
Well, if you see your captive has escaped, you're probably gonna call your guard or beat them senseless, or both. I would do both.
Both, right? Right? So he sees her run in, she taunts him, he follows her out, calling for his guards, especially when he sees the captive is escaped and has allies with her.
Yeah, don't want to mess with that.
She kind of called the entire fort of... fort versus fortress again. Fort of veteran soldiers to basically surround them. So...
See, while you guys had to deal with a Dragonelle, the fodder you were fighting were still just Dragon Army grunts. They're little better than bandits.
Yeah.
But veteran soldiers?
And a bunch of them. Once she had alerted everybody, I actually stopped the session there, and I had to be like, I have a lot to prepare. And we returned to it next session with the fight, where I dropped Asper, I dropped Karis, I dropped Braywin, I dropped the Merryman, and I dropped Thea. Only Absinthe was left standing at the end. And I was rolling the death saves for the NPCs, because Thea, at the very least, is special to me.
And why is that?
She is Menelwyn and Theamin's daughter, which I thought it would just be a fun little, like, add-in to the Taldori campaign for me and Gina.
For those of you who haven't listened to the episodes, shame on you, go back and listen to them. But Menelwyn, it was Nicole's character from our Princess of the Apocalypse game, and Theamin was the DNPC she shanghaied. I think that's the name of the episode, actually.
It was...
Where you shanghaiing my
Wizard?
I think that might be one of them. I also talk about you shanghaiing my NPCs a lot, so...
You make NPCs that are great for it. It's not my fault.
It's a little your fault, but I digress again.
Yeah. So, I'm rolling the death saves for them. One of the Merrymen dies, which is tragic, because they were very sweet men, and not bad people.
Very merry.
Very
full
merry.
Full of mirth.
And Thea fails her saves. The party gets knocked out, imprisoned, like, Absinthe surrendered, they got imprisoned, they broke out, and left, going back towards where Thea's family's house is. That's a good idea, to go back to the house without the daughter. Also, they got mad at me because I took their stuff. Their stuff was literally in the dungeons, in the room next to them, like in the closet. If they had spent 2 seconds looking, they would have found their stuff.
Yeah. No, they ran away, tail tucked firmly between their legs.
And had to tell Menelwyn about her daughter.
Now, have we told them about the post-game for Menelwyn and Theomin?
I don't know if we did fully tell them about that.
Well, if we haven't, sorry for the brief description of it. And if we have, you're welcome for the brief recap. Take your pick. So, Theomin being a human and Menelwyn being an elf, their relationship wasn't going to last long after Theomin, turned 80-ish. So in order to avoid that issue, Menelwyn being a fully realized wizard at that point, used true polymorph to turn them both into dragons. I believe...
Well, the other option was, lichdom, and then there's reincarnation stuff, and, But then dragons are an option.
This is very true.
Why not?
What type of dragons did they become in the end?
He became a mithril dragon, and she became a tome dragon.
And these, I think, were either 4th edition dragons or some obscure dragons. I think they're in Faerun lore.
They just fit the personalities of the characters best.
Right, I was just saying, if you look them up, you'll
curious.
you'll be able to find stat blocks for them, official stat blocks you could use in your games. They exist. They may be Pathfinder, actually, now that I stop and think about what those pages looked like, but they're still official dragons, and their daughter just got killed because a group of adventurers pulled some stupid crap.
So fortunately for them, at the time, Theomin was traveling to find out what happened to their son Hero, which actually is a whole other story with the Wildmount group.
We found out!
You did! You found him.
We found him. Was he alive? Was he dead? Did he wish he was one or the other? That could be a different story.
But so, fortunately for the party, many acted vengeful. And she basically, I think our gate summoned Theomin, and we went off to get her body back.
I was about to point out,
destroy the place.
Fortunately for the party, she went vengeful on someone else, not them.
Yeah, fortunately for them, it was somebody else's mistake.
Well, it was still their mistake, but it was someone else's problem.
So, giving them time to heal up and get the fuck out of there before they got back.
Because you don't want to be in town when 2 angry dragons come back with their resurrected, angry, draconic daughter. Because Thea has a little dragon in her, too.
Yes, she does.
We can talk about that another time.
Yeah, that'll be later. But that was their Cragmaw castle.
That was their Cragmaw castle. We had Cragmaw Castle, Dragonlance. We've had the original Cragmaw castle. And funny enough, the reason this one was someone we wanted to do right now, or at least why I wanted to do it now. Yeah, we had the most recent one, the Dragonlance one. But I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 recently, and it is a fantastic game. I don't need to tell you that. You've probably been seeing it all over the internet. I went into spoilers. You have to find a druid at one point who's been taken captive by goblins in what used to be a temple, I think, to Sune, or to... So, Shadowheart doesn't like it, and she is best girl, so I'm going to help her burn the place to the ground. As you do. She is best girl. But it is currently full of goblins, and at one point, as I am trying to romance her, I kind of intimidate this goblin who's trying to mouth off, you big people think you're better than us, we better than you, kiss my foot. And I basically intimidate him, and he's like, all right, I'll let you go about your business. And then he's like, oh, I can just beat you up. So he tries to beat me up, and my character doesn't get to touch him. The other two just take him down real quick. And he's like, mercy, mercy. And I'm like, all right, Shadowheart likes it when I talk my way out of problems, so I guess I show mercy. Quick little cutscene of her going, mercy to this one would mean a dagger in the back later. And I was like, darling, you get what you want. Let's kill this fucker. Unfortunately, my understanding of goblins is if one's mouthing off and someone kills that one, no one bats an eye. I was wrong. The entire camp of goblins, the ogre guarding the door, the goblin clerics, and the goblin, plural, the goblin warlocks, also plural, all decided we needed to die. So I'm sitting there, just managing the Gales up top, slinging spells, Shadowheart's healing and hitting people with a mace. My character's a fighter, and I don't have multi-attack yet. And I just start... And I have, of course, that vampire jackass just firing arrows. I don't like him. I mean, I start to understand his backstory a little bit, but I don't like him. Just
the internet loves him, but...
The internet loves him.
Yeah.
They're just thirsty for vampires. I mean... They're thirsty for twink vampires. I mean...
And he is also conventionally attractive.
In the middle of this fight, I'm just sitting there and going, this is a castle full of goblins, and every single one wants to kill me. And this is another Cragmaw castle. It's just... It is always haunting us. I'm just curious. That makes 4. 3 in tabletop, 1 in video game. I just wonder how many times we're just going to look at something and go, Cragmaw Castle all over again.
It's just a thing that we can call it now when we draw the entire aggro to us.
Pulling a Henry, pulling a Cragmaw Castle. Just forever. I think that's what we've learned as Dungeon Masters. We've learned sometimes aggro is gonna hit you.
Sometimes Cragmaw Castle is just inevitable.
Either clench your sphincter or run like hell, but you gotta do something. So thank you for joining us for another episode of the Dungeon Master's Corner. I've been Brian.
And I've been Nicole.
And we look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Bye!
Bye! Take it away, outro guy.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Dungeon Master's Corner. If you'd like to support us, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/reliably chaotic to maybe toss us $1 or $2. All I have are these 4 nickels, which aren't a lot, but it's strange that it happened 4 times. You can also drop us a line on Twitter at reliably chaotic. We'd love to hear from you.